Hello, and thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight. My name is Spomela Lezondi. Twitter turned 8 years old on Friday. We'll talk about its birthday later in the program. IT News Africa often hosts innovation dinners in Lagos, Nairobi and Johannesburg. They're also in the studio for a chat. Tonight, we'll also tell you a bit about continuing BlackBerry troubles and America's suspected continuing spying. We are live. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Let's get to your technology and social media news now. The Gauteng provincial government says it plans to give 88,000 tablets to school kids. They've already started with this process. Schools targeted will also get free Wi-Fi. Here's Network's Boitume Lokasa with the story.
Please open the activity. Open the activity.
These pupils in Protea High School have always used traditional books. Here, they are being introduced to e-learning. The pilot program aims to roll out 88,000 tablets across schools in Gauteng province.
Revolution angle?
Reflex angle.
The province's education department says 2,200 are targeted.
The investment will go a long way in ensuring that our learners and educators are able to have a wider field of access to information, just as we have seen here how they can do research whilst doing their exercises.
Each school will receive 10-inch Huawei devices. They say this will help with mathematics and science. Protea High School people say this is needed help for them.
They are quite fast. You can work with them anytime you want it, any subject.
It's the easy way to learn.
Using the tablets was quite fun because textbooks, they sometimes don't have all the relative information that we need. Then tablets, they do have all the information that we do via internet.
Grade 4 and 9 pupils will get theirs first before it's rolled out to others. Schools will also get free Wi-Fi and 3G connectivity. Kids getting these tabs will also get assistance in opening email addresses.
The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA, is reported to be backing down from its plans to cut mobile termination rates. These would be charged when smaller operators like Cell C and Telkom Mobile piggyback off bigger players like Vodacom and MTN. This has been scheduled to begin on April 1. MTN and Vodacom have been taking ICASA to court over these plans. The Sunday Times cites a Bloomberg report in saying ICASA has embarked on a reconsideration of this plan. It has been expected to help the consumer pay less for phone calls. The African Union Commission and the Ministry of ICT in Namibia have launched the Internet Exchange Point system. This is a continent-wide project that seeks to localize internet traffic. Here's Tile Khaswane with the details.
The AU's Internet Exchange System project was launched in 2010 with the aim to keep Africa's internet traffic local. The objective is to avoid paying overseas carriers for the service of exchanging African internet traffic. The AU Commission and the Ministry of ICT in Namibia have this month launched the Internet Exchange Point system in the Southern African nation. Namibia is the latest of 22 African countries to adopt the system. This way, Namibia will avoid paying unnecessary costs and quicken the exchange of internet traffic in the country. The internet in Africa has been growing steadily over the past several years and is beginning to play a significant role in Africa's development. It is also creating employment and providing opportunities for innovation and entrepreneurship. The internet is also acting as an enabler in the digital delivery of government services, education and healthcare.
A lot of us throw out electronics parts when they stop working. In Kenya's Kibera informal settlement, many are now making money recycling them. The bustling streets of Nairobi's Kibera slum are not often considered avenues of wealth creation. Kibera is Africa's biggest informal settlement with a population of almost 1 million people. 36-year-old Leonard Ngatia lives here. He collects discarded electronic material from repair shops around the slum. On a good day, a hefty collection of scrap pieces from old computers and other electronic devices can earn him up to 500 rand.
Instead of this waste being dumped, we pick it up and we pay for it, and then we get what we can get from it. So far, so good. It's a good thing because the money that you get in a day helps. And we don't make money every day, but what we get, we are able to plan for. We buy what we can, we pay rent. I can't complain.
Electronic waste from rich countries often ends up in developing nations where many people work in hazardous conditions for low wages, dismantling it. The generation of e-waste in emerging countries like Russia and South Africa is also on the rise, following rapid economic growth. But it can be valued if recycled. One study estimates that 1 million cell phones can yield 24 kilograms of gold, 250 kgs of silver, and 9 kilograms of palladium. That's why an initiative in Kenya is linking waste collectors to recyclers and exporters. This helps the poor make money from electronics seen as garbage. Electronics manufacturer HP is assisting in this.
We need to educate the population that this so-called electronic waste is actually a resource. It becomes a resource when it is recycled in the correct way.
East Africa Compliant Recycling Limited has ensured e-waste collection points are installed in various locations around Nairobi.
We've got the Soweto Youth Group in Kibera and some other youth and women's groups who are able to establish their own businesses and employ, equip and train collectors to collect the material.
Once a container is filled, its e-waste contents are resold to the main hub, where it's processed and sold back to the technology industry. Each stage of the process is designed to be profitable for participants, from individual collectors to collection points to the hub. They hope thousands of jobs will be created. Chinese telecom giant Huawei is reported to have been hacked by America's National Security Agency. Huawei is the world's third largest mobile phone handset manufacturer after Apple and Samsung. The information was leaked by Edward Snowden. The NSA is believed to have obtained sensitive data. It then monitored communications between Huawei executives. The New York Times reports that the NSA operation, codenamed Shotgun, was to uncover any connections between Huawei and the Chinese People's Liberation Army. Huawei has defended its independence and says it would condemn any infiltration. Now, Turkey has banned Twitter. The country is now accusing the microblogging site of defamation for allowing Turks to evade the government's attempts to ban the service.
Hashtag Twitter is blocked in Turkey has been one of the world's trending Twitter hashtags this week, sparked by the Turkish government's ban on the popular microblogging site. This hashtag was started by some of Turkey's tech-savvy individuals who tried to work around the ban, and this they did with the help of Twitter.
To get a tiny bit technical, a web address like www.twitter.com is really a series of numbers. A DNS resolves that. So the DNS that would resolve it for Turkey that they shut off, that's gone, right? That's been cut. Find another one to do the translation, and that's what they're giving people. They're saying, use this one.
Turkish Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan initiated the Twitter blockage due to public rants made about him on the site.
So the Prime Minister of Turkey basically banned Twitter because he didn't like what people were saying about him on the service and how he's ruling the country.
The international community criticized this move.
The United States is deeply concerned that the Turkish government has blocked its citizens' access to basic communication tools. We oppose this restriction on the Turkish people's access to information, which undermines their ability to exercise freedoms of expression.
The Turkish government has now accused Twitter of defamation for allowing users to evade government's attempts to block the site.
BlackBerry is selling most of its property in its home country, Canada. The smartphone handsets manufacturer has been struggling for a while now. In November, BlackBerry unsuccessfully tried to sell the company. They did not say who the buyer of its real estate is, but mentioned that some of the property will be leased back. BlackBerry says it's still committed to having a strong presence in Canada. The deal is expected to close in 2015. Now, I never thought I would see the day when a robot would threaten my job security. Yes, robot journalists are being increasingly used all over the world. Recently, in the United States of America, the city of Los Angeles experienced a minor quake. First accounts about it were written by a robot.
It's early morning on Monday 17th in Los Angeles, and a magnitude 4.7 earthquake strikes. Residents immediately take to social media to check what it was.
Immediately I went to Facebook and made sure it was an earthquake, and on my head, and sure it was. Everybody was up talking about it.
I was a little unsure of what it was, but luckily it stopped after like 15-20 seconds. So panic was over, checked my phone, and then found out it was a small earthquake.
The first information about what they'd felt was written by a robot, and this was only 3 minutes after the shallow quake. The robot writer, which is a computer program, was commissioned for the online version of the Los Angeles Times. It is designed to automatically generate quick articles faster than human journalists. Robot journalists generate reports about crime in the city, sports results, and earthquakes. Robot journalists are not expected to replace traditional journalists just yet. They are, however, increasingly being used in newsrooms worldwide.
It's SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, News Network at sabc.co.za and email. Stay with us.
Africa is symbolized by these magnificent trees. The Sunland Big Baobab is carbon dated to be around 1,600 years old. When baobabs become 1,000 years old, they begin to hollow inside. In the Big Baobab, this has resulted in the world-famous Baobab Tree Bar.
That's Kaleidoscope, Sundays 5:30 p.m. on SABC News.
You missed the Oscar Pistorius trial? Watch the update and highlights of key moments in the trial on SABC News Channel 404 every night at 9 o'clock and at 5 a.m. All local, all global, all the time.
Good afternoon, you're watching the news at 1.
Now, one of South Africa's largest education departments has a new boss.
I will also motivate learners to love learning.
Yesterday, the lobby group lost yet another court bid to have the system halted.
Global wealth has risen by 68% over the past 10 years. That's according to a new Credit Suisse report. Well, it seems there's more gloomy forecasts in the foreseeable future for South Africa's economy.
We need to sort out this mess in the labour market.
That's News at 1, daily at 1 p.m. on SABC News.
SABC, sharing 20 years of inspiration.
Welcome back. You're still on Network. Twitter turned 8 years old on Friday. Since inception, the social media site has been credited with assisting in changing the world. But some use it just to have a bit of fun. To celebrate its 8th birthday, Twitter created the first tweets website. Lebosi Jage tells us more.
This was co-founder Jack Dorsey's first tweet 8 years ago. Little did the lad know that someday his social media invention will change lives, let alone the world. In its 8 years of existence, Twitter saw people across the world through adversities and triumphs.
I use Twitter to learn about it and share what people are doing to make the world a better place.
To celebrate its birthday on March 21st, Twitter allowed users to search for their very first tweets. It even went as far as creating Twitter birth certificates for its users. The microblogging site boasts about 700 million registered users globally. It was recently listed for trading in the New York Stock Exchange. It looks like this little birdie is tweeting its way beyond the skies.
Now joining us in the studio to talk about this is Richard Frank. He is from Flow Communications. Part of what they do is to help organizations with social media campaigns. They've also been involved in the World Wildlife Fund's very successful hashtag I Am for Rhinos campaign. Hello and thank you for being a part of our network, Richard.
Good evening, Spoomy.
Now, Twitter turned 8 years old recently. Now, what can we say the successes of Twitter have been?
Well, it's been an amazing, ride for them. They started in 2006. They only had probably about 20 to 40,000 tweets a day in 2006. They've grown now to have more than 500 million tweets per day. They've got more than 240 million active users, and they more than 5.5 million active users in South Africa. So it is a real cultural force.
What makes Twitter different from other social networks?
I think the fact that it's public, that everything that you put up is public knowledge. Unlike Facebook, where you have a personal conversation with people, Twitter is a platform where you can publish a tweet and it can go out to more than 300 million people potentially.
It's a political tool as well.
Yes.
You at Flow Communications created the hashtag I Am for Rhinos, and that was big.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about how it's also been used by people in campaigns?
Yes, well, I mean, the I'm for Rhinos campaign, which we ran, was really to bring awareness about rhino poaching in South Africa. And we managed to get that going through a hashtag campaign, I'm for Rhinos, which got over 160,000 tweets in South Africa, which was pretty unprecedented at the time. But I mean, internationally, there have been some major successes with Twitter in the Arab uprising in Egypt, and most recently now with Turkey, and the way that people are using it to, the public are using it to get news out about the uprising there as well.
But for people who don't live in countries like, let's say, Egypt, like yes. Tunisia, how does Twitter affect their daily lives? How does it affect my daily life and your daily life?
Well, I think it's a great tool to connect with people. First of all, personal relationships, to connect with your brother, your sister, your mother, your colleagues. But also it's a way of connecting with public figures, with celebrities, with people you wouldn't ordinarily be able to contact usually. So, for instance, who would have thought that 10 years ago, who would have thought 10 years ago that today we could send a tweet to Oprah Winfrey or Barack Obama and they might actually respond to us.
Now, for somebody who is about to join Twitter for the first time and somebody who's a bit hesitant, what do you say to them?
Well, I'd say, first of all, jump on, register your account on Twitter, and then, just start communicating with people in the same way that you would normally have conversations. You are limited to 140 characters, but you can say quite a lot in that space. It really does take a little bit of practice. We do provide training at Flow Communications for people who need to get that leg up and learn Twitter. But I think also, for brands, it's really important that they get strategists and people involved to help them enhance their brand on Twitter.
And a brand that doesn't want to use it, what would you say to them?
I'd say you have to use it. It's a communication tool, whether you like it or not. People are talking about your brand on Twitter. You want to be part of that conversation. You want to be engaging with your customers. If you're not engaging with them, they will be talking about your brand without your knowledge.
Twitter etiquette for people who've just joined and those brands that you're talking about as well.
Well, I'd say it's common sense. Remember that when you're communicating in public. Everybody can read what you're writing about. And I'd say just do the same things you would do in normal conversation. Be polite, etc.
Richard Frank from Flow Communications, thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you, Spoolman.
Now, recently I had a chance to play with the recently released Nikon DF camera. I quite liked it. The Nikon DF is a DSLR camera with a very retro classic look. It is the smallest small frame and the smallest DSLR camera from Nikon. There's manual dial controls at the top. I've heard people saying this is a bit of a schlep, but I don't see why it should be. I took the camera to a friend's party and it was a low light environment and was surprised by how bright the photos taken there were. I didn't have much time to play around with it, but the downside is that the Nikon DF doesn't support movie capture. Let's take a quick break and we'll be back.
That's Sports Live, daily at 8:30 p.m. on SABC News.
Good afternoon. You're watching the news at 1.
Now, one of South Africa's largest education departments has a new boss.
I will also motivate learners to love learning.
Yesterday, the lobby group lost yet another court bid to have the system halted.
Global wealth has risen by 68% over the past 10 years. That's according to a new Credit Suisse report. Well, it seems there's more gloomy forecasts in the foreseeable future for South Africa's economy.
We need to sort out this mess in the labour market.
That's News at 1, daily at 1 p.m. on SABC News.
Now, IT News Africa is planning innovation dinners in Nigeria, Kenya and South Africa. These bring together big names in Africa's IT industries. To tell us more about them, we're joined by IT News Africa CEO and Executive Editor, Abi Wakama. Hello and thank you for being a part of our network.
No, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
What are these IT innovation dinners all about?
Well, we started back in 2010. It was a small dinner here in South Africa. And the idea was to bring together executives in IT to talk about the burning issues in the industry. And so that's how we started, basically a platform for networking as well as a way for IT vendors to get their messages out to the right audience. So that's what the dinner started as. Yes.
Who are some of the previous speakers at these innovation dinners?
We've had quite a few. In 2010, we had a guy called Dilbag Gill, who was in charge of IT for the World Cup in South Africa. He was one of the first speakers at the innovation dinner. We've had people like the MD of Ericsson. We've also had a senior executive, Theodore Forbat, from a company called Frog. Frog put together the design language for Apple computers back in the 80s. So it was quite exciting for us to have him at the dinner here in Sandton. And we've had a number of others as well.
What do they often talk about?
They talk about innovation, for instance. How do you drive innovation within an organization? We also talk about enterprise mobility, with so many people bringing their cell phones into businesses these days. How does it affect the network and all of that? So we talk about issues in IT, cloud computing, and etc.
So who attends this? Can an average person on the side of the road walk in and attend these dinners?
Well, unfortunately not. It's by invitation only. But we try to bring together senior executives in IT who are actually decision makers in this industry to ensure that they learn the latest trends in the industry and implement them as well.
You've chosen 3 cities for these.
Yes.
It's Lagos, Nairobi and Johannesburg.
Yes.
Why those 3 in particular?
Well, what we try to do is these are the 3 major economic hubs on the continent. And we've chosen these hubs because most of our clients basically want to do business in these countries, especially in these hubs. And so we're, to a certain extent, driven by our clients into these areas. So, for instance, we've done business with the likes of SAP in Nigeria, where we hosted an innovation dinner in partnership with SAP. And we've done similar events in Kenya, etc. So, to a large extent, we are driven by the sponsors of these dinners, and that's why.
Do you find that they enjoy being there, those that attend and participate?
No, of course they do. The dinners wouldn't have been around since 2010 if there was no value for attendees. I mean, they do derive value from it because what we try to do is we make sure that the topics are relevant, that we get brilliant speakers, and obviously the food is great as well.
You spoke briefly about why you started it, but what do you get from it now as IT News Africa?
As a company?
Yes.
Well, we do derive some revenue from it as from
apart from that, great conversation, I suppose.
Great conversation, market awareness. Most of the people in the room are people that we would like to do business with as well, and so yes, it does. It's great for an attendee. you learn about the industry. For sponsors, you talk to the right audience. For IT News Africa, we create awareness in the industry about us. So it's a win-win situation for all concerned.
All right, Abi Wakama from IT News Africa. Thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being a part of our network.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Here's what some people have been sharing in social media. Namibia gained independence from South Africa on 21 March 1990. Independence Day celebrations took place on Friday in the country's capital, Windhoek. Alisa Amopolo shared a video of these festivities on Instagram. Others were also sharing their messages on Facebook and Twitter. South Africa celebrated Human Rights Day on Friday. Some in social media say they'd rather it be called Sharpeville Day or maybe Heroes Day to honor those killed by the police in Sharpeville in 1960. This morning, Blitzbokke lost to Fiji 33-16 at the Tokyo Sevens. South Africa was trying to defend the title. It's been another talking point in social media. That's all we have for you. Thank you very much for being a part of our network. From me and the rest of the team, have a good one. We leave you with an extremely cute video of the 3-year-old Mateo, who is trying to argue his way out of a spanking for stealing cupcakes. The week-old video has been viewed over 5 million times on YouTube. Until next time, bye-bye.
Okay, but I have to yell at you guys.
Linda, listen, Linda. Listen.
Okay, what?
Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house.
Okay.
Okay, then what?
Then you're not listening to me.
Then you're not listening to me.
I asked you not to do something.
Linda, but listen to me. Look at, if you do something, if you get that bird thing off, you're gonna break it.
Okay. But I'm letting you know that you cannot.
Linda, lick it.
You're not listening to me.
Linda,
listen to me now. Listen to me now.
Listen to me.
No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes, and you try to get cupcakes, and you try to ask Grandma.
Linda,
didn't you?
Linda, lick it. If you do something right out this, if you get close, you can't even get them. You're gonna burn your butt.
Coming up this week.
South Africa has seen unusual rainfall in the last 2 weeks, which has caused a lot of damage throughout the country.
In next week's program, we will discuss the health risks and hazards associated with the floods.
Join Dr. Sello Mutaung on Health Talk Live every Saturday from 14 to 1500. Zoom into Africa. This is Madagascar. The president is Mr. Heri Rajaonarimampianina. Madagascar got independent from France on 26 June in 1960. The population is more than 21 million people. One of the major languages spoken is French. Monetary unit is Ariari.
A very warm welcome to PM News on SABC News Channel 404. I'm your host, Lulu Gabu. Let's take a look at stories making headlines. Honeymoon murder accused Shrien Dewani is expected to land in South Africa on the 8th of next month to stand trial. 3 people have been killed and many wounded when 2 gunmen opened fire in a packed church in Mombasa. And the Springbok Sevens team have suffered a heartbreaking 33-26 loss to Fiji in the finals of the IRB Sevens Tokyo leg. Good evening. It's almost 6 weeks to the general election and the political landscape is wide open. Political campaigns are gaining momentum and promises are also on the rise. Voters are confronted with a tough choice.
A crucial time for the country. The ANC Women's League president was at a service, praying for divine intervention in the fight against drugs and satanism.
There's lots of depression. You just think there's lots of psychological problems facing our kids, and we don't detect them early and support them.
In Mpumalanga, Belfast residents were divided over the benefits of voting.
We have that right to vote. We have a lot of changes here in South Africa.
They only come to us only if ever they want something.
The SACP called on them to vote for alliance partner, the ANC.
It's important that we get to understand our communities, that we don't just come and tell people to do things like vote for the ANC, but also listen to them.
The Young Communist League of South Africa urged members of the public to vote for the ANC, this at a rally including NUM workers who returned to the fold.
We're also here to welcome back hundreds of members of the NUM who had gone to and were misled by some Mickey Mouse union called AMCU, to say to them, come back home, the NUM is your home.
In KwaZulu-Natal, the IFP took its campaign to a hotbed of political tension, Kwamashu Hostel. Earlier, the NFP and the ANC had canvassed in resort for votes ahead of the by-election on Wednesday.
This particular ward has cost us so many lives that we even owe it to those people that died. In fact, that we should retain it for their sake, for the sake of their lives, for the sacrifices that they made when they died, for the leadership of this ward.
In Tembisa, the NFP celebrated its 3rd anniversary and launched its Gauteng manifesto. Zanele Magwaza Msibi said there were tears and suffering in the country and called on her supporters to wipe every tear from every eye.
It is the time for the people of South Africa to vote for the NFP, to give us an opportunity, because the NFP is offering something new, the party that is going to be responsive to the needs of our communities.
Magwaza Msibi said the NFP would enter into discussions with any party on issues of governance, but only after the election and if and when the need arose. Limpopo was not to be left behind. One of the oldest parties resurfaced, Jimoko, formed in 1984, will contest the provincial elections.
We are no longer in that old system, which was for the homeland system. We are now in a multi-party system.
The tone has been set for these elections, and any party's success will depend on how hard it has worked. Lehana Tsotetsi, SABC News, Johannesburg.